Hi, welcome to the coaching show. I'm Laurie Lawson, and tonight my guest is Rob Imperato. Hi, Rob.
Hi, Laurie. How are you?
I'm good. I am thrilled to have this gentleman here. He has, I'm going to say, he's decided to coach one of the most challenging, we'll call it challenging, challenging groups, and that would be teenagers. So he's going to tell us what came over him to make him decide to do this. Interesting story. First, let me tell you a little bit about the coaching game. The coaching game is based on points of view. The coaching game, which was created in Israel by two people I refer to as geniuses. And the whole concept behind points of view is to bring right brain and left brain thinking together. And what I usually do is have my guests pick a card that will kind of symbolize what message they want to get out. Now, Rob picked about 15, but we made him narrow it down. So we're down to 4, so that's good. But first, before we get started, Rob, and besides thanking you for being here, tell me what made you decide to become a coach?
Well, it goes back to my days as a corporate merchandising director. And as a corporate merchandising director, I was working 60, 70 hours a week without a great amount of fulfillment. And I thought that's what I should be doing, where I should be, 6-figure salary, et cetera, so I was comfortable. Then I had a medical situation with cancer that didn't allow me to go back to that position. So sitting in my, what I call a lift chair because of the damage that I had to my legs, I realized that the name and the brand was gone, and who was I? And realizing that everything that I thought I was different now. Life had changed dramatically. So I was thinking about things to do. I wound up going to an evening program with my wife and taking a course in procrastination. And I do a little bit of that as well.
Was that to teach you how to draw the decision out a little longer?
Yes,
or
yes.
Or to get you going there,
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely. So bottom line was the facilitator was a life coach. And when I heard that it was a life coach, that was it. That was something that resonated so strongly with me.
Did you know at the time, because when I became a life coach, I really didn't know what it was. Did you know what it was?
No, to tell you the truth, it just resonated so strongly, I wanted to find out more about it
good,
and never
okay.
look back on that.
I have a
Absolutely.
theory that coaching calls who it wants, and it was obviously speaking to you at the time. Yeah.
I believe that so truly. I
Yeah,
do. I really
yeah.
do. And it was exciting. It's been an exciting, exceptional journey for me.
So what happened? You heard the word life coach, and
I ran up to that facilitator after the meeting and asked her about it and where she attended and information, went to the website, signed up that week.
wow.
Yes, it's probably the quickest thing I've ever done, the quickest decision I ever made in my life.
Isn't
without
it?
giving a lot of
And no
thought.
regrets.
No regrets.
Okay, that's pretty good. So what did you decide you were going to coach on?
People that were in transition, I realized that there's so much more, and I themed it, change a life transition to a life ambition, because that's what happened to me.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, and I was
a life transition to a life ambition. I love
Yes.
that.
Yeah, and I thought that was the way to go, and it was for me. But then meeting many parents, I was drawn into talking with that about their children, the struggles they had with their children, how they were struggling as well. And that's how that came to light.
Okay, I don't know where we start here. What are some of the challenges? I'm not sure we have enough time, but
Right. I'll give you quick snapshots. Some of the great challenges is a sense of malaise and this great sense of entitlement that the children are experiencing, and they don't even realize it. It's stopping their ability to really dream, achieve for themselves, and have the joy of fulfillment. So it really hinders the possibilities, and they feel that their entitlement leads to frustration, expectation, and then victimization, as I say it. So then they feel always that they're behind the eight ball, they can't do. They don't see the potential in anything for many of them.
So now what do you think is causing that?
The lack of ability to see for themselves what they really can do. They don't identify their own strengths and realize what their possibilities are. They rely on others more than ever, and parenting comes into a big part of that.
Wow. I don't have children, so my questions are going to be really dumb. But
No question.
curiosity, it wants me to ask: Is it because the parents are trying to give them too much, or is it because it's just the times right now? I mean, you wrote a lovely book. I haven't read it, but it's called The Digital Age: The Real Challenge and Effects on Children and Parents. And I'm just thinking that I know for my own self, everything is so fast, and
Yes.
I get mad if my computer doesn't respond. Bing, bing,
Yes.
bing. And it's like, really, I wouldn't, and my phone, it's
Absolutely.
just amazing how frustrating I can get because and now I have a hard drive in my computer, and it's just zip, and it's still not fast enough. So I'm equating that to what you're saying. Is that wrong or right?
You're hitting the nail on the head. Instant gratification, the frustration that they have
Yeah.
that things don't happen quick enough when they want something. And they confuse, and I'm sure you've heard this over and over, there's a great confusion between want and need. Everything they need rather than want and create for the want.
Wow. Okay, so where do you, in a problem like that, where do you start? Do you start with the parents? Do you start with the children? Do you?
Well, fortunately, it's the parents that have to hire me, so I do start with them.
They don't have money, right?
But they do, I think there's an expectation on me to help their children see for themselves, which works. But the other half of that is working with the parents. I do parenting workshops and webinars as well to kind of blend the two, to help them see what they're doing to participate in this with all good intention.
Sure. Let me go back then. Okay, who do you coach? Both parents and teenagers, or together, separately? How? Tell me what you do.
The children separately, and I do life skills workshops in an after-school program. I do the individual coaching and helping. I've done in-school programs, and it's amazing when they do get a sense, the children, when they do get a sense of themselves. I didn't realize that. You hear that constantly. I didn't realize that about myself. So that's a great breakthrough for me. Helping the parents understand to see their children in the full dimension of the person they are, not just as their children. And I'm certainly guilty of that when my children were raised. They were my children. And then I realized that there's more to these children than parents realize. They don't give them sometimes enough credit for being the person that they are.
Wow. So it's a systemic. I mean, you.
I believe so. That's a wonderful word. I've never thought of it that way, but it is. It's that cycle of events that creates it. And if I may, Laurie, I use the iceberg as a defining moment for the parents. I said, this is an iceberg. And what we see is 10 to 15% above water level. But 85 to 90% is below water level. So do we see our children as a full dimension? I help them look at where the children's strengths lie and to help identify.
I'm thinking, I love the iceberg analogy. I'm thinking though, it's like maybe the 15% is our symptoms and the 85 is source, or is that too simplistic?
Well, I look at it, the 15% is their children. The 85 and 90% is the person. And just not seeing it as their children. Right, yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Okay, so what are some of the, well, let's use some of the cards. Which card speaks best for the coaching that you do with the teenagers?
I think the awareness, well, we create more of the awareness for themselves.
Okay. And awareness of, when you're saying awareness, and this is a cool card, I never quite got it, but I think it's the indentation of the watermelon seeds that aren't there. That's my awareness, whatever. But I like the card. So are you saying the awareness of, you define awareness for them. Let me not give you 4 options, multiple choice.
I guess to see the best in themselves so they can be the best in themselves. That's the vision I have. So when they become more aware of certain things that they do well, we take for granted what we do well. We do on the long go, and we criticize ourselves if we don't do it on a regular basis. But helping them be more aware of what they can do well. Look at their natural strengths. Identify what they do that they enjoy and they do well, and then give them the feedback. I mean, a lot's spoken about positive psychology. Not that I use that, but I use the positive reinforcement, showing them constantly what they're doing right.
And do you feel that they aren't aware of their potential, and they're not aware of? The reason I guess I'm so baffled and impressed of what you do is that I know that peer pressure and that constant is just. So where are they learning this from? And are you reaching deep down inside and bringing it out of them, or?
If I can explain it this way, life skills. It's about how you manage and create the life you want. But many talk about life skills, time management, problem solving. We go beyond it, probably beforehand. We talk about core values, self-worth, self-talk. Items like social emotional intelligence, so they understand their emotions, to help them develop that. Then I move into, when we talk about time management and problem solving, so they're more aware of themselves.
And you do this on a one-on-one?
Do it on a one-on-one, and I do it in group coaching. It's, not as effective with the one-on-one. You can really dig in, but the small group coaching, it's very effective as well, because now they're sharing. They're not alone.
Well, exactly, yeah. And I'm thinking, I know Dr. Phil is currently got to have bullies and people being bullied in the
Yes.
same house. And it's
Yes.
like, without guns, which is good. And it's like, and you know, and it's like I'm wondering, you know, and it's interesting to see the dynamics and bouncing off. It's
Yes.
How strong is peer pressure, and how do you break that?
You know, when I ask them about their values, and one of the ones they pick out that they're not sure what it is the autonomy. And when I explain to them in the layman terms that I can, it's about self-thinking and following what you believe is right for you. I think that's a big reflection on what their strengths lie and how they're less affected. You know, I like to say, coin the phrase, and I didn't develop it, self-worth and self-acceptance is the foundation for self-esteem. And it's our first line of defense against bullying, peer pressure, and self-defeat. I really feel if we feel good about ourselves, because growing up, I certainly related to not feeling great about myself, to where now I know who I am more than ever.
Right. So technically, or hopefully, this could be not a solution to bullying, but a way to deal with bullying.
Yes,
Yeah.
because I don't know if we could ever stop bullying, and certainly I come from New Jersey. Their rules and regulations of school are stronger than ever. So I don't know if we could ever really stop it, but I think we can stop the long-term effects that last sometimes, some of them a lifetime.
Oh wow, that's an admirable goal.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah,
that is
and in fact more important than teaching them how to fight.
Right,
It's like,
absolutely.
It's like teaching them how to remember who they are.
Yes.
Wow. So when you do this in a group, you do it at school, or do you get your group together, or do parents come to you and go, please, we have many kids?
Well, we do, and the most recent group I did was a 6-week program that was an after-school program, and just prior to that, a small group in where there was 5. And I really enjoyed the small group because we had more time to work individually. But when they hear about the stories from themselves, this sense of relaxation that they have, and then the self-expression starts to come out. They start to really express how they feel, and to my delight, is when I feel like I'm getting there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's like I know. I'm going to ask you, like, I'm going to ask you, what is the biggest challenge that you're facing today? What you're doing currently?
It's getting, when I speak to the parents, Laurie, and they talk about a shortage, it's never about the finance, it's about time. I don't have the time to try to drop them off because they have other priorities. And when they're struggling so much, the priority sports, whatever the parents think they do, and they are trying their best. I'm not at all mocking or ridiculing parents because they think what they're feeling doing what they're best. But if back to the point of seeing their child for who they really are and understanding maybe they're not so sports minded, but they are more of a speaker or orator, finding their talents is to help them really dig in and them being part of this, because I can do so much, and we are successful. We talk to the kids. I get feedback. I ask for evaluations from them, and one of them expressed it to me this way, and it touched my heart, and I get sometimes emotional with it. What are you feeling after this? And he said, a sense of freedom.
Wow.
Yeah, he was 13 years old. A sense of freedom. So was it from the thoughts of, the negative thoughts about himself or whatever?
Yeah. That's amazing. And I look at that, and then I see that parents are also there. Your kids have to be involved in sports, and they have to know how to play the piano, and
Yes.
they have to have play dates, whatever that is, or they have to, and college requirements, and on and on and on. So what's a parent to do, let alone a child? So,
Right.
What gave you the courage? Do you think you could help these folks out? Because we're talking very complex problems, I think, and like I said, systemic. It's like if you can get the child in order. We keep calling them teenagers. Please don't get mad. I'm old enough to call you a child, okay? But to get the teenager in order, but then you got to get the parents to play along, to go along with it. So what gave you the courage to do this?
The parents realizing, and I myself remember when my children, if they were mad at me, you'd start to question yourself. Some of these parents so question themselves, breaking down in tears. I'm talking about in a public arena where they start to really express how they felt like a failure, don't know what they're doing wrong, the child don't love them. And I realized that there's so much of a struggle, so I started to research more what's going on with the children. My children are a little older, so looking back and realizing that the greatest thread that connects is the lack of self-worth and self-acceptance. That's the single thread that I think is much their problems.
Wow. And as a coach, I know that you can't coach without coaching yourself and learning. What's some of the lessons you learned from this?
Understanding who I am and realizing my real strengths.
I was just going to ask you, do people come to you as a corporate person and tell you all this stuff? Or did you totally transform into a coach?
What in the corporate, if I may, I wore two hats: the director, and then the other one was human resources, which was the smaller part.
Okay.
Needless to say, I love that employee development.
Yes.
When I had to do work with the employees or work on something of that kind, I was always beaming. I was always successful. And when the numbers didn't come back right, I wasn't so successful on the other hand. But that was an indication to me that I had been coaching, but not in that way. Having the employees have a buy-in rather than tell them what to do.
Wow. So what you're saying is from becoming a coach, you feel like you discovered the true you, the
Yes.
mission, the calling, the whole thing. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
Yes. If I may, going back to my childhood, they used to call me the neighborhood shrink, and I didn't understand what that was, but people had always found it easy to talk to me and tell me their problems, and I loved it. So, but again, not paying attention to it, to that degree, just accepting it's something I did.
Well, by society standards, you did everything right. You were a corporate, you were a six-figure,
Yeah.
you'd climbed the ladder. So,
Yes.
yeah. So, and that must be the same with a teenager. If you're getting positive reinforcement from people that you supposedly care and respect,
Yes.
Then it must be very difficult to say, you know what, dance to your own tune, make your own music.
Yes.
It's scary.
Yes.
What kind of skills do you, because you said you do skills workshop, what kind of skills do you give them? You don't have to give away all the trade secrets.
No, and that's a very good question. The skill set is understanding. A lot of the parents come to me and ask, what's the best way to protect my child? And my return, I ask the parents constantly, what do you really want for your children? And the resounding answer in that same order is happy, healthy, and safe. So teaching them to self-protect, and yes, karate or that is excellent, but to understand their emotions and to understand their strengths and understand that I am this, not what I'm hearing. Because peer pressure, as you said, is horrendous to a degree where it rules their life. And then they look for others to make them feel happy. My goal is for them to really understand what they do well and build on it.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure it's of help that celebrities, so to speak, are coming out and saying, as a kid I was bullied.
Yes.
Because it seems like almost everyone who's up there and A-list had a rough childhood. So
Yes.
you can just get them to hang in. What the suicide rate for kids, it's like that must be so frightening to parents. And
It is.
the fact that it's an option, and maybe it was when I was a child, but I don't remember anyone committing suicide. Do you touch on that at all? Or do you feel that you're erasing the need?
I do, but as an ultimate with the parents. I don't like to bring that up with the children because they know more about it than I do, because they hear more about it through the schools and all that, as far as witnessing it. But the one thing that I found so unsettling to me, and this is probably about 2 or 3 years ago, if I go back and research, depression in our country, as we know, it's on the rise. Depression is a regular, accepted situation, whether it be, physical or environmental. But the one area that in the last 20 some odd years that grew dramatically, 35% was 13 and under, 13 years old and under. That's why I start to focus on the younger ones, because at that age when they should be really enjoying life, they're struggling with anxiety and depression.
They're on diets and deciding whether they're having sex. It's like,
Yes.
when I was 13,
Yes.
I'm like, much easier, but I'm sure my eyes sound like my grandparents now, but it's okay. Again, I've earned that privilege.
Yes.
So, wow, that's a big tackle. Do you ever get scared? Do you ever get scared? This is a lot of
Yes.
responsibility.
Yeah, my concern is that if it's this way now, and we maintain this momentum, what's it going to be in another 10 to 20 years for the same age group and younger?
And I have to say, I admire your courage and your awareness, because most people go, nah, 21 or over, I'm not touching this. I don't know what to do with these kids. And so that's why I say I was so impressed when I heard about Rob, because it's like, you said, okay, give me the hardest group you got. Bring it on. I got it.
And when you had mentioned that to me, the hardest group, it made me think. I said, She's absolutely right. It is, but that's not thwarting me because I see the great need.
And as we'll be coaches, we'll say the biggest challenge. There are no hard and difficult and all that jazz, right? We're good IPEC people. So
Yes, we are.
Rob and I both graduated IPEC,
Yes.
so that's cool. All right, so what? Another card. What else did you pick?
Well, I had picked that freedom because, as I told you,
the
most
kid,
recently.
who said he was free at 13.
Yes.
Isn't it sad that he felt he was chained and at 12? That's amazing.
And it was totally unprompted. I didn't give them things to pick from.
Yeah.
They went around, they felt good. They felt good that someone listened. They trusted Coach Rob, and whatever he does next, we want to participate. But when this young man stood up and he used the word freedom, I just got goosebumps because as an IPEC graduate, I realized what I wanted in my life was freedom. But not in the sense that I'm chained anywhere, but my own thought process, the freedom to think and feel who I am. So when that hit me with that young man, I said, I know what I'm doing is
What
right.
we call an aha moment.
Yes, yes.
Makes it all like, what was I doing? What am I doing this for? So where can people find your book? Well, first of all, let's tell them about your website, which is
RLC.com.
I mean, you can figure that out. Just write it down. And it's at the bottom of the page. And what are they going to find on there?
They're going to find what I do and my heartfelt feeling about my own transition and how I plan to help those that are struggling. I take part of the excerpts from the book to put it on there so they can see. Again, I had no intention on writing the book. It just came to me after meeting and dealing with the parents and the children of what my goals are and how I see I can help more specifically.
And they can find the book on there?
Yes, they can.
Okay.
It can be ordered to the website, yes.
Yeah. It's the digital age, and I was talking to Rob, and he said, you know what, I wrote it a year and 2 months ago, and it's almost out of date because the pace is so astounding, just astounding. But this will be a nice start. So you have, let's talk about what you have. You have groups for parents, you have coaching for parents, you have coaching for groups of teenagers.
Yes.
One-on-one.
One-on-one.
Workshops.
We do, yes. And the life management skills program that I put together, it's again nothing that I created other than using what I believe they need, and I front loaded with them, the core values, the strengths, natural strengths, the peer pressure, self-expression, the self-talk, and they find it very fascinating when I tell them that you produce between 50 and 70,000 thoughts a day, how easy it for you to say, I'm not good enough 200-300 times. I give them as an example.
Do you have any reversal projects? Because I know, and it's true for all of us, adults, no matter what age, you could get 98% positive remarks, and the 2% are going to run through your head over and over and over again.
Yes, yes. If I may, I had feedback from one of the parents at one of the life skills program, 6-week program, and it was resoundingly very effective, and people were happy. One parent wrote down, I haven't seen any change in their behavior in that short of a time. And I was saddened by that because not that they told me the truth, I was asking for the eval, but I wanted them to help me so I can help them.
Yeah.
You know, so that kind of thing set me back to make me realize I have to reach parents more.
Well, I would think whatever's being ingrained in the 13-year-old, like, what did you say, how many years later? And
Yes.
Yes. So we've had time to reinforce our negative thoughts.
Yes.
And that's the beauty of coaching, because coaching gives you a reframe. You can look at things another way, and you can, is it real? And sometimes we're concentrating on beliefs that were established at age 5, you know, and we're 45. It's
Yes,
like,
ma'am.
please.
Yes.
So if you can circumvent that, and I think that's what you're saying you're doing, to say, okay, that's a thought, and that's a reality, and, now what?
Right.
That's not the be-all and the end-all.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And how true is it? What evidence do you have, which we've heard?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So what would you say, let's talk to everybody, adults, teenagers, whatever. What would you say would be something of breaking the ritual of self-negative critical talk that goes on in your head? Do you have any tricks? We'll take them.
The simplest form I could say is allow yourself to dream without negotiation. Because when we talk about dreaming, we talk about I can't, I shan't, I was not a writer, I was not an author. And that I did write it, and I was an author. So allowing yourself to
here we are.
allowing yourself to dream and see what you do right. We're very critical of ourselves, and we talk about judgment. We do more judgment of ourselves, not everybody, but many of us. And when you realize that the judgment is preventing you from really getting to where you want to be, allowing yourself to more understand of who you are, what you're doing, and not what you're told.
Wow, dream without negotiation. That is, that's a pondering one, because it's like, okay, now what dreams have I stymied
Yes.
with the borders? And you know, as coaches, we're taught to think outside the box.
Yes.
But that box is so comfortable, and
Yes.
people jump in with you, and it's like, okay. So you sort of expand the box and knock down the walls.
Absolutely. And then take it from there. You know, what can we
Yeah.
build on, you know, and work backwards from that dream.
What is there an age too young to start this?
I thought the age too young was, when I first started this, was 14 and 15. But I realized that the exposure that these young adults to be are experiencing, even at 11 and 12, if you listen to the conversations on, you know, the internet or the games they're playing, they are far more sophisticated than I am. But what I realize is that with all the sophistication and technical expertise they have at a young age, they don't have the emotional ability to deal with the emotions that are following what they're exposed to.
Well, I agree. 100%. Do you think that the digital age is hampering and stymieing our ability to communicate not only with others but with ourselves? I mean, you don't have to think; you just Google it. You don't have to. You don't have to wait for an answer. You either have it or you don't, and that's what you were talking about: instant gratification.
Yes.
Do you think that the digital age is? I mean, it's wonderful, but it's also like limiting.
It is. It is, I believe, really stymieing the reflective thinking, to stop and think reflectively without the self-criticism. What am I doing? What have I done? How can I do this differently? Because they want to move so quickly forward. And then the frustration comes in. And the resilience is not there. The coping skills aren't there. So they give up and they'll do less.
It's so interesting because I know they've introduced, and this is like 10 years back when maybe 15 years when MBAs were so hot, and they were churning them out, and then employers realized they don't know how to deal with people. They got this stuff going down, but they don't know how to deal with people. And so they had to go back and redo the whole MBA course to say, oh, you need to communicate and you know, relate. And I think that's what you're doing. And wow. Are you doing this all by yourself?
Relatively so, yes. Yes, it's my goal. I would love to expand and meet with coaches that want to do this, just because it's my goal to help as many as possible. So that would be. And incorporating in part of the workshops I do social emotional intelligence. I touch base on the 4 quadrants of that to help them understand how important, as to your point, the sociability that they're lacking.
I'm going to say we've got 30 seconds. Do
Yes,
you believe
ma'am.
that? And I'm just going to say, you know how to get in touch with him. It's at the bottom of the page, and I'm sure you can find him if you just Google his name. I think you're going to find Rob Imperato. I want to thank you so much. I've come away with nothing but admiration for what you're doing. Thank you for sharing with us, and keep it up.
Thank you
Hang
so
in
much,
there.
Laurie.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
You.